Hi, this is Mrs. Zhu, and today you're working on homework 14. I did not label that in the worksheet that I put on the homework board, and there was a little mistake. You are working on the pages in the textbook, page 291, 1 through 8, and 293, but you don't have to do 20 because you did already do it. It's actually 21 and 22, and you're going to do that on page 36 in your table of contents. Now, if you could also, in the highlighted area in your table of contents, to change that, because we're going to call that homework 13, and you'll see that in the grade book as well. We're going to go ahead and work on this worksheet, which is the proportions practice test. So I'm not going to go over the book work with you. Instead, I'm going to go over the practice test. The practice test is going to help you with Friday's test, and so this practice test should be completed by Friday. So that means you have tonight and as well as the next night to finish it. All right, let's go ahead and tackle question 1. Question 1, you have this table which shows that there are a number of cases and the miles that are traveled for the gallons of gas. I am to fill out, if there's 10 gallons, how many miles traveled, and then if there's 330 miles, how many gallons I traveled. Now, there's definitely several ways to do this. One way that you could do this is what you see here, okay? You could take the 4 gallons and the 110 miles, divide that both by 2, so that 2 gallons is 55 miles. And because I'm looking for how much it is in 10 gallons, I could multiply the 2 gallons by 5 to get 10 gallons, and also multiply the 55 miles by 10 as well. Sorry, by 5 as well, and that will give me 275 miles. So to travel 10 gallons, it's going to take me 275 miles. You must show your work for your homework. A lot of you are not. I'm going to start marking zeros. For down here, for 330, now there is another way to do this problem. You could use a proportion like you see down here, where we've got 4 gallons and 110 miles, again from the chart. And if I'm looking for 10 gallons, I want to look for how many miles, so 10 over x. Then if I simply cross multiply, then I would get 275. Another student found the unit rate, where I simply divided the 55 miles for 2 gallons or the 110 miles for 4 gallons, and I got 27.5 miles, and that's per gallon. And from there I can multiply it by 10 to get 275. If I'm going to work backwards and get how many gallons it is from 330 miles, then what I could do, I looked at the 110. And because 330 is triple that amount, then I also tripled the 4 gallons to get 12. Of course, you could also set it up in a proportion by using 4 over 110 and x over 330. And again, you'll see it in the proportion. There's a direct relationship that's triple, so 4 times 3 is 12 again. So you're still seeing that in the proportion. Or you can simply cross multiply. Number 2, if we say that this is the entire swimming pool, then what we'll get is half of the pool is going to take us 1/4 of a minute. Okay, so if I go a whole entire minute, Jamie's going to swim an entire minute. So if I swim an entire minute, now 1/4 of a minute is half of a lap. So if I add another 1/4 of a minute, another 1/4, and another 1/4, then I'm going to be able to reach 1 full minute. From there, then I could just simply say that since each 1/4 minute is half a mile, half of the lap, half, and half, if I add up 4 halves, I will be able to get 2 lengths of the swimming pool. So my answer here is 2. Number 3, as you're looking at the graph and we want to write this representation as an equation, now they want us to use M for money and H for hours. For us in class, we had actually been using X and Y. X for the horizontal axis and Y for the vertical axis. So if you want, you can use X and Y first and then later represent it as with M and H. So I could do that. Our equation should always be Y equals K times X. To write my equation, I need to find the K, which is going to basically be my unit rate or my constant of proportionality. That constant of proportionality can be calculated if I take Y and I divide it with X. So I will go ahead and have to, on the graph, find an X and a Y. Now, I can find 1 hour is 8, so 1 and 8. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and take that one. If I take the 1 hour, then that's already going to give me the unit rate, because what it's going to give me is that there's $8 that are earned per hour. Okay, that's the unit rate. So the 8 is my constant. So I'm going to go ahead and write the equation Y equals 8x. Now they want me to use M and H. So since M is the amount of money that's used for the variable Y, my equation now is going to be M equals 8 times H. $8 for every hour. So if the hour increases to 2 or 3 or 4, I'm multiplying 8 every time to then get how much I'm going to make. Let's go ahead and skip down to number 6. Okay, for number 6, we are going to be looking at the tables that represent a proportional relationship. Now we do want to select all of the tables that represent that. So as I look at what I'm going to do for each question is I'm going to write ratios. Okay, all of my ratios I'm going to write, I'm just going to simply take them from the table. So -2 and -4, is that equal to -1, -2, and is that equal to 1/2? Now I do see that there's a 0, 0. That is important. Remember, the 0, 0 is my origin. So I definitely wanted to cross the 0, 0. So this answer here looks good. The 0, 5, I definitely don't want 0, 5. I want 0, 0. So if I check the other ratios here, 2 over 4 is the same as half. So I do want A. It's proportional. Let's look at D. 2 12ths, is that equal to 4 20ths? And is that equal to 6 28? I'm going to go ahead and simplify each fraction. Divide that by 2, and I'm going to get 1/6. Divide by that 4, I'm going to get 1/5. Divide this by 2, and I'm going to get 3 and 14. So these numbers are not really adding up. I definitely also don't want D. Then let's look at C. I've got 3 over 21, 5 over 35, 7 over 49, and 9 over 63. Now each one is going to be 1/7, and so that I definitely want that as well. So that's helpful to see for this question. Number 7 is quite difficult. We're actually going to just skip that one, so don't worry about that one. And number 8. When you get to number 8, this one's quite tricky. Number 8, there's two parts, an A and a B. A is just ask you to set up the proportion. There's 7 sections that take 2 hours, so 7 over 2. And then I have 30 sections over X the number of hours. So that's my setup. Then B, I'm actually going to solve that setup. When I do go ahead and cross multiply, what you will get is 8.57, and the decimal kind of continues, hours. Now that's represented in hours. That is about 8.5 plus more than that, plus more hours. Okay, now they want us to round our answer to the nearest minute. So I'm not looking for the answer as 9 hours, but I'm looking at my answer in minutes. So if 8.5 hours, that's about 8 hours and 30 something minutes, right? About. So if I were to actually round 0.75 hours to the closest minute, I'm actually going to have more than 30 minutes. So to get that, what I can do is take 0.57 of an hour. 0.57 is about 57% of an hour. And an hour is the same as 60 minutes. So I'm going to multiply that with 60. That's going to give me about 36 minutes. So my final answer for B, I'm going to work over here, is going to be 8 hours and about 36 minutes. I'm giving the closest approximation to the number of minutes. That's the nearest. Alright, please pause the video when necessary. You know, I do go kind of quickly. There's a lot of questions, and so you do want to be able to get as much help as you can since I'm not here to help you. Number 9. For number 9, what's really important about number 9 is taking each of the months and using numbers. Okay, so for January, we'll use 1. For February, we'll use 2, and so forth. So if January is 100, February is 200, March is 400, April is 800, what we're going to do is pretend the table look like that. The months are my X and the cost is the Y. Then if I wanted to find out if these relationships are proportional, and it does look like it is, because every month the amount gets doubled, but it's not describing from month to month. It's describing the relationship between the actual month and how much is in the account. So what we need to do is set up ratios. If I were to write a ratio for each of these pairs, I would have 100 over 1, I would have 200 over 2, 400 over 3, 800 over 4. Are these ratios equal? Well, the first two are. Okay, 100 over 1 is 100. 200 divided by 2 is 100. 400 divided by 3 is not 100. And 800 divided by 4 is 200. So they are not equal. In this question, they are not proportional because from month to month, even though they are doubling their money, there's no constant of proportionality that you can find. So part B, there's no constant of proportionality. We'll call it COP. There's no constant of proportionality. And the reason why was we didn't find anything from month to month. No, that one is actually really tricky. If you were to actually graph it, what you'll see is a curve. Okay, and the curve is basically an exponential, well, not exponential, but it is exponential. But here it's gonna curve instead of actually being a straight line. Let's go ahead and look at 12. 12, we're going to find the constant of proportionality, or K, and same for 13 when we find your constant of proportionality, and as well as 11, so we can do that for all of them. When you find your K, remember the constant is y divided by x, y divided by x, y divided by x. When we're looking at our table of information, we're just going to say the first piece of information is x, and the second is y, just in that order, ordered pair, x and y. X and y. So when we go, we're just going to pick one of those numbers and divide. So for 11, we're going to take 53 miles that are traveled for every 2 gallons, and then whatever we get will be our constant. For 12, you're going to do the same thing. We'll just pick 4 and 1. So 4 divided by 1 is 4. Okay, so for number 12 specifically, we want to then define and determine that constant, and that 4 is represented by the 4 for the perimeter per side length. 4 perimeter per side length. And that's what it means for us to get the number 4 for our constant. And same